Okay, so is everyone out of the waiting room? Yeah?
It's just Kusaladana joining.
Okay. Just let people get settled. Hope you enjoyed your time in the waiting room. I hope you found some good old magazines to read. So I'm here with Lizzie this evening. She's on keyboards for us. So this is day 2, session 4. And in the last session, I talked about a couple of questions that we explored on the Bodhicitta practice retreat, which can be quite helpful. Who are you practicing with, and who are you practicing for? So I was saying that, we can say, well, we're practicing with one another on the retreat, kind of meeting in this sort of heart space beyond time, beyond the limitations of where we happen to be physically. But when we start exploring that, when that starts feeling like, well, that does mean something, we can take it a whole step further and realize that we can be practicing with the whole lineage of Dharma practitioners, the whole lineage of bodhicitta, sort of going back through time. We're not limited. Awareness isn't limited. So we can feel a sense of solidarity being part of the great practice of bodhicitta that's been going on ever since the time of the Buddha. And who are we practicing for? Well, we're practicing for all beings, but that can be a bit general. We can hear that phrase over and over, and it can roll very smoothly off the tongue, but sometimes it doesn't really mean much. So it can be good to just be aware of certain people or a particular situation and feel, well, we're particularly practicing for them. That can motivate us and just make it all a bit more definite and clear, and make our motivation a little bit sharper. And motivation is crucial. And then we did a practice of giving friendliness and love, which was one of the 4 or 5 things that I talked about in session 2 as things that we can give. And I was linking them to the mantra of the 5 Buddhas. So friendliness and love are connected with Amitabha. And we've already done a short practice of giving material goods, which is associated with Ratnasambhava. So this evening, I want to explore a little bit more about giving skillfully. And I had a question about that, which has triggered some thoughts. And I've just put them all down on pixels. So by session 2, the next teaching session, you'll have those. And hopefully those will be helpful and maybe trigger more responses, or maybe you'll feel like there are the areas that aren't addressed. So please respond to those if you'd like. And let's see if over the course of the retreat we can cover the main areas, the main things that we need to be aware of when we're looking at giving in a skillful, sustainable, effective, fulfilling way. That's enough adjectives. But maybe we'll just touch on 1 or 2 things this evening before we meditate. And one whole area that's always important to get straight in our Dharma life, or as straight as we can, is making sure that there isn't a tension or a battle going on between our idealism and our current state of being. It can be very easy, if we're thinking about giving ourselves to some project, some situation, to get caught in the sort of crossfire between those two, where our idealism says, yes, it would be the right thing to do. Yes, it would be a really good thing to do. Yes, that's what the Bodhisattva would do. And everyday me going, yes, but I don't want to, and I'm not sure I've got the resources, and do I have to? And we can get a certain way down the path with our idealism sort of dragging our everyday self, kind of kicking and screaming along behind it, but it won't get very far. We really want an integrated practice where what I'll call for our idealism for a minute or two, and all the different aspects of who we currently are in a kind of kindly dialogue with one another. So that more and more we're becoming integrated behind what our heart really wants. And there's not that sort of split and that divide and that tension. Because I've seen this in myself in past decades, and I still meet it, in talking to people about their practice, sometimes in sort of subtle ways, but still there. And it's really unhelpful. And often it's not a direct kind of clear tension, because often everyday me feels outgunned. It feels like, actually, what can it say when our idealism says, yes, we should do this wonderful, inspiring, helpful thing? What argument can you put up that's strong, that goes against that? So often what happens is that everyday me sort of kind of agrees without really agreeing. Bhante says somewhere that a person convinced against their will remains of the same opinion still. Yeah. So if you felt kind of under pressure to agree, you haven't freely agreed. So what happens is then those aspects, more everyday aspects of ourselves, just go underground and sort of sabotage. Yeah. They just make the whole thing difficult. Yeah. But they don't sort of stand up and say, no, sorry, we're not doing that. They kind of, just find ways of pulling the plug on the sort of striving idealism. But in a way, the whole thing is an unhelpful pattern to get into. And it's all about views, fundamentally. It's the view, all the views about what we should do, battling with our views of what we're like and what we can do. And so it's not, as I say, it's not integrated. It's not the whole of us coming to any kind of decision. So we want to really include our heart in this. We want to include the body in it. Because otherwise, I think one of the reasons why, as Buddhism developed, all these figures of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the Yidams appeared and came to the fore was because otherwise ideals can stay a bit they can be inspiring, but they can be a bit kind of conceptual still. They can be easily turned into standards that we have to live up to, rather than inspiring, motivating things which really lead us on. We can turn them into, goals that we have to achieve, and yes, as I say, standards that we live up to. And if we don't live up to them, then we failed, and it's another reason why for our self-esteem to be low. So yeah, when those ideals of awakening are embodied in a person, even in a yidam or a figure like that, then along with them is all the kind of heart quality that you have with a Buddha or Bodhisattva. There's all that love and understanding that's there as well. So then, yes, the whole decision about how to act and what to do sort of moves more into the heart rather than sort of discussions amongst views in the head. And then we start to get both the inspiration of really feeling what those qualities are like, and there's also a sympathy and an understanding and a care for those aspects of ourselves that aren't sure we really are up for this or want to do this. So we get a much more integrated Dharma life. And the same too, if we really include the body, because the body can give us often a sense of, an intuitive sense of the kind of motivation that we're approaching things with, and particularly whether we have what Bhante called a point of freedom, whether we're operating out of a sense of being free to choose, being free to decide, yes, I'll really put myself into this situation, I'll really help with that. Or whether there's a sort of mixed motivation, whether something in us feels constrained, under pressure, that we have to do it because we'd feel guilty if we didn't, or there can be a motivation to want to be approved of, or to be seen to be the one who's doing it. In the really early days of Triratna, Bhante, he would read all the minutes from all the centres in those days. And I remember when we had our first proper London centre in Archway, we would have council meetings there, and there would be things which needed doing. And so there would be, who's going to do that? And somebody would go, I'll do it. So that was good. But then 3 weeks later, there'd be the next council meeting, and we'd go through the list of matters arising. And has that been done? Oh no, it hasn't, but I'm going to. And then another 3 weeks would pass, and has that been done? No, it hadn't. And Bhante commented that in a way people were taking things on without really thinking through what it would mean to actually do it, just because they really like the idea of themselves as being the one who'd say, yes, I'll do that. So there are all kinds of sort of mixed motives that can go on. But when they're there, there's a sense of kind of limitation and a sense of, not being free to choose, really. And if we really feel into the body and the heart, we can start then to really find what feels like an authentic, genuine, trustworthy motivation. So certainly with larger decisions, we want all of us involved. We want Yeah. So there's a sort of integral, a whole deciding, yeah. At least for big things. You know, if you pass somebody begging in the street, okay, you don't go through all that. Or maybe you do. I've sort of, sometimes in the past, and I kind of, well, I remember years ago, I learned a lot from somebody that I was going out with. We'd be going down the street and there'd be somebody asking for money. And I would start thinking, well, yeah, I could give them something, but you know, some of these people who are begging, they're basically taking the money and using it to buy drugs. And would that be really helpful? And you know, maybe I shouldn't give to them. Maybe I should find some charity that helps people who are homeless and I should give to them instead. And while I was thinking all that through, my friend had already kind of, who didn't have much money, had already kind of got into her purse, sort of found some money and given it. And it was really simple. So we want to get to sort of integrated decisions, but we also want to leave space for just that free, spontaneous heart response to things where we just go, yes, you know, here you are. Yes, I'll do it. So, as I said, I've written something so you can see a bit more, but is any of that clear? Is any of that helpful? Is there anything we could clarify? Are there any areas about giving or issues about giving that doesn't touch on at all?
I don't know how you do this.
Dara Vandana, are you?
Yeah, I'm waving. So I'm finding this very, very helpful. Thank you. What happens when you have a very strong heart response and you want to give, and actually you then realize that it wasn't very wise because you've perhaps overcommitted yourself, or you haven't remembered what you've already said yes to?
Yeah.
And I'm often in that situation.
Yeah. This whole area is one of kind of trial and error in a way. There are some bits of the Dharma where it's just really clear, you follow the precept and you know what to do. But then there's a lot of things which are, you know, learning from experience and getting it wrong and then backtracking a bit and having another go. And I think this tends to be one of them. Yeah, on one side, yes, we want to follow those heart responses. But we need to also just be aware that, yes, often we get caught up with the immediate. That, you know, there's this situation, we could help it, and we just want to, and we go, yes. But we haven't taken the whole ecology of our lives. We haven't taken everything else that we're doing into account. And you can end up under a lot of stress and pressure then, you know, you can end up burnt out if you really follow that through. Personally, in a lot of situations when I was very busy with and engaged in a lot of different things, I had to make it a rule that I wouldn't ever say yes straight away to anything that was, you know, more than a tiny thing. I would always say, well, I'll go away and think about it, even though I knew, you know, I really, really wanted to do it. I just made sure I'd say, I'll think about it. And then I'd go away and I would look at the rest of my life. And then I'd come back to them, having done that and having decided, okay, I'll drop something else, or yes, there is space, and I'd say yes. Or maybe I'd think, no, actually, I'm already doing, you know, lots of things that I really care about, and this is just one too many. But I had to make a rule for myself not to get carried away by the excitement of the moment, however good that was. Yeah.
That's very helpful. Yeah, I have found saying I'll come back to you later very helpful.
Yeah. And if you're like me, I'm very responsive. I mean, Vessantara, you know, Bhante gave me that name, and you know, there's a whole story of Prince Vessantara who gives anything to anyone who asks him. So, you know, that's a very, very inspiring, but a good recipe for burnout. So, yeah, I've also at times had to make sure I check with my spiritual friends before I take on anything too much. You know, they can restrain me and sort of like sit on me if necessary until I calm down a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, my friends, some of them are present, do the same, and I'm very
Good. Okay. Anything else?
Vessantara.
Hello.
Yeah. Hello, it's Gunnar K2 here.
Oh, hi, Gunnar K2.
Hello. I've just I could identify very much when you say about the battle of the idealist versus the everyday me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if one will have tendencies one way or the other. It's like I could see that in good parts of my life, order life, I will have been a bit like you described. But then I could see at other times I will have slipped into the other half. So it's actually the mundane me that's just, you know, can't be bothered. I can't getting into no, everything's just nice and it's working. My life is working all right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to stretch myself. I've done my idealism. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So I wonder, and I was also looking, as well, looking at the, well, I suppose any group of people, including our order, there will be people there. And I was just wondering, it's a bit like Ajahn Chah was saying, you got to fit the instruction to your temperament the way you are. So I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Yeah, you have to, I agree with all that. You really have to make whatever Dharma teaching or method you're given or you take up, you really have to make it your own. Yeah, which means it's always bringing it into relation with your tendencies and your conditioning and what's happening with you at the moment. And yes, I think people tend in different directions. Some people easily overstretch themselves. Some people don't stretch themselves enough. And it can be different at different times and in different parts of life, different situations. So yeah, there's a lot of subtle awareness that needs to go into really, having the self-knowledge to decide what to do. I think often with the Dharma, we can start with more of a sort of naive idealism, and then that gets a little bit blunted by experience. But then we need to not just lose it, we need to come back to it, but make it, the idealism can be as full on as we like, but it needs to be, expressed realistically. Yeah. And I think there's quite a lot of what you say, which is that it's like we haven't completely sort of resolved the tension between the unhealthiness in the tension between our idealism and who we currently are. But often people, as they get older, they kind of hold their idealism at a safe distance. So it's like it's still a kind of warm glow there, and it sort of affects them, but it's not a kind of burning fire anymore. You can almost be, if you've overstretched due to an unintegrated idealism, then you can almost be a little bit careful that you never really get so inspired that you might get carried away and change your life in a major way. And that kind of thing can happen. So it's really good just to explore into all this with the sense that there is a way. We can never, fully, completely express, what we'd like to express in everyday life. But there are ways of, expressing idealism, to call it that. Expressing our heart wish, our heart longing, what we really want for ourselves and for others. We can find ways of doing that are sustainable and that gather momentum over time. And I think it's really helpful, to think in terms of gathering momentum with all Dharma practice, rather than a kind of boom or bust sort of way of practicing where you really kind of put a lot of energy in, but then it's too much and then you sort of retreat to the sidelines for a while. Ideally, you want just a steady gathering of energy behind your Dharma practice, and all aspects of it.
Vessantara, it's Vijayashri here.
Hi, Vijayashri.
Hiya. Okay. So, I just called to mind there's this passage in the Three Jewels, the glorious company of bodhisattvas. I don't know if you remember it. And Bhante talks about there being this tension between, he talks about solidarity with others and that, the desire for peace and withdrawal for the world. And he says something like the Mahayana recommends developing both so that the tension increases. And he says eventually the tension snaps and the bodhicitta arises. And I just, so I'm just wondering if there's a good sort of tension, or, because I find that when I remember that particular teaching, it actually has a certain effect of almost making me relax, because there's sort of like, oh, well, tension is inherent. Don't worry about it so much, or, anyway, I'm just interested what you think about that.
Yes, I think a little bit earlier I talked about unhealthy tension, because I think there are some tensions that are inevitable. It's like if your heart opens to the world, you usually feel some tension between what you would like to give, what you'd like to bring about, and what you can bring about. So there's a tension there, and we have to sit with that tension, rather than just sort of rebounding back into, well, I won't, I'll sort of close my heart down. There are tensions in spiritual life. There can be the tension between wanting to go deep into absorption, deep into peace, deep into exploration of very, very subtle aspects of mind and body and subtle energy that need really, good conditions. And at the same time, we can also, really want to help and be of service to life. And so, those kinds of tensions, they will be there. They'll be there as long as there's a sense of some kind of self-reference that's going on. But eventually, then all that does resolve and does release. Yes, I agree. There are some tensions there, but we need to make sure that the tensions are the tensions of those deep heart longings for different skillful things to come about, which can't all be played out in the course of one limited human life. That they're those, rather than the added tensions that we produce, when we produce kind of the complications of, guilt, or wanting to be seen to be a hero, or whatever it may be, all those kinds of things. And with a great deal of sort of self-metta, all those tensions are kind of, the deeper tensions can still be there, but there's an understanding between them, if you like. Yeah, there's a pull. There are pulls in different directions, but it's almost like there's a recognition that they're all they're all deeply skillful, and so the tension can be more sometimes surface things of, what do I do? What do I do next? But yeah, there's a deeper reconciliation between them. Lizzie, did you have something in the chat you wanted to?
She just asked.
Oh, they did. It's just us.
There was somebody who raised their hand.
Okay.
Meda Shrew.
Let's see. Is there anybody else? And then one more, and then we better meditate.
Oops. I did have a question about stretching, but I think it's really been covered already. So,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think, maybe kind of stretching and things like yoga are a kind of fairly good analogy. You want to stretch you want to stretch yourself. You don't want to just play incredibly stay safe and stay where you are. But at the same time, you want a good stretch. And over time, you gradually, that goes further. You don't want to stretch. So, have some sort of idea of, doing the ideal yoga pose, which your body isn't currently capable of, and kind of injure yourself. So it's the same kind of principle when we're deciding, what to take on in terms of our Dharma life.
Vessantara, it's Dhiramani.
Oh,
sorry,
hi.
I think you've answered my question I had, which was that that tension between, if you can't decide on something, there's almost like an equal desire to either do something or not do something. Perhaps you've discussed it with your spiritual friends or whatever. Do you think? I think that's been touched on what you've been talking about in the last couple of questions, Taravandanas and most recently. Do you think also, if you decide to engage in something, but you're still not really sure, is it you just not taken enough time to come to a decision, or do you put in some perhaps parameters of, say, reviewing a situation if you feel, you can check in with yourself, or do you see what I mean?
I do see what you mean. Yeah, I know it's sometimes. Sometimes you can see people kind of in conflict and doubt. Should they do this? Should they not do it? Should they do this or should they do that? And more energy sort of goes into that conflict without it being resolved. And often, if it's possible, the way to go is just to say, right, I'm going to do one of them, or I'm going to try this, and I'm going to review it after a month or 3 months. And then you get a sense of whether it's working or not. Yeah. So it's quite good if circumstances allow to do something provisionally, for a period of time. But during that time, you really do it. You really put your energy into it, and then you discover, some of the results of it and the effects of it. Much better that than a kind of more sort of doing a little bit of one thing and a little bit of something else, but not really discovering about them because you haven't put enough energy really behind either of them to discover what would really work. Yeah. Okay, let's leave that there. And I think we covered some of the ground that I wanted to, and hopefully by session 2 tomorrow, there'll be 1 or 2 more thoughts that you'll be sent or that you'll have access to around all this. Okay, let's finish with a period of meditation. So just resting in awareness of whatever's going on. If there are still thoughts or feelings from what we've been talking about, they don't have to stay, they don't have to go. Just aware. Aware of what is. Now relaxing. Giving ourselves to the earth. Letting it support us. Maybe we can notice a flow of energy down through the body, down into the ground. As we entrust ourselves to the earth. Letting our posture grow out of that. Open. Sense of being poised between the earth and the sky. Feeling into the body. No need to be for or against what's happening. Aware of the breathing. Taking in the gift of life. Not holding on. Giving out freely. A natural rhythm of receiving and giving. Complete receptivity to the in-breath. Complete generosity of the out-breath. noticing how the whole body participates in the process. Opening and contracting. The whole energy field changing. Complete acceptance with the in-breath. Complete giving and sharing with the out-breath. opening to life with the in-breath. Giving ourselves to life with the out-breath. Resourcing ourselves with the in-breath. So we can give and share freely with the out-breath. Now being aware we're all practicing together. Drawing on our collective energy and strength with the in-breath. sharing our energy and strengths with the out-breath. Now, when we're ready, just sitting, nothing to do. Aware experience. Dedicating the merits. In whatever way feels right to us. Okay. Felt as if that meditation had further to go, but we're out of time for now. So look forward to seeing you sometime on day 3. Thanks again. Beam me up, Scotty.